Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. This is the lecture 3 of periodic table, and today we'll be discussing about the periodicity of properties in the periodic table. Uh, with, Before starting that, we'll first discuss the effective nuclear charge or screening effect. Now we all know that an atom has a nucleus which is surrounded by orbits, right? And these orbits have electrons which are negatively charged. So because of the presence of protons in the nucleus, these electrons are attracted toward the nucleus, which is also known as the nuclear charge. So these are attracted towards the nucleus. So for a given electron, this doesn't happen under the influence of only one force, that is the force of attraction, but due to like charges of electrons, there is repulsion as well, which results to the decrease in effective nuclear charge. Nuclear charge for an electron. Now this decrease in nuclear charge is given by the constant sigma, which varies differently for every element. Now we generally use the Slater's rule over here. To find the value of sigma, and this is a pretty easy thing to do. Now with the firstly, before starting the calculation part, we'll first discuss something known as grouping. Okay. So firstly, just remember this, guys. Okay, I'll just show it to you. Just group it in this way when you are calculating the sigma for a given element. And then there is phi s. Okay, we won't require that many values, so if it's fine if you learn till there. So to find the sigma for a given atom, we simply have to understand which electron we are protecting. So the outermost electron is, you can say, it's guarded by the inner electrons, which results in the decrement in effective nuclear charge. So for example, if we take the nitrogen atom. So the nitrogen atom is something like this, right? Five electrons in the outermost shell. So we'll take one electron from the outermost shell and see how much there is decrement in the effective nuclear charge. So we all know that the nucleus will have a charge of 7e because it has 7 protons, right? So it will attract the outermost electrons by 7e, which is ideal, which should normally happen, but it doesn't because of the innermost electrons. So there's a formula in which considering that we have nth shell over here, so for the nth shell, all the electrons except the one we are protecting will decrease the effective nuclear charge by 0.35 each. So it will be 0.35 into number of electrons, and for n minus 1 it will be 0.85 into number of electrons. Okay, so here we know that in the nth shell, this is only applicable for S and P subshells. So we will first study about the S and P subshells. So here it will be, so we'll take 4 electrons, this one, this one, this one, and this one, because this is the one we are protecting. So these will generate the force of repulsion in the nth shell. So there are 4 in this, so it will be 0.35 into 4, that is 1.4. okay, and in n minus 1 there are only 2 electrons, so it will be 0.85 into 2, that will be equal to 1.7. Now we'll add these, so we'll get this as 3.1. So this is the value of sigma that we got, which is equal to the screening effect of the given electrons. Okay, so here we'll get the effective charge as 7 minus 3.1, and that will be 3.9. okay, so the nucleus will attract the outermost electron by 3.9 electron, you can say the value of electrons 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 90. So I didn't tell you the complete formula over here, I'll just tell you that. So for S and P subshells, this means that the electron is in either S or in P subshell. So in the nth shell, each electron will protect it by 0.35. okay, and then in the n minus 1 shell, it will be 0.85 each. Now n minus 2, n minus 3, okay, then this will be 1 each. So this is pretty easy to remember, right? This is pretty easy to remember. So we can observe one thing over here, that the electrons which are further away from the nucleus have contribute less, whereas the electrons which are closer contribute more. This is due to the fact that they are more effective when they are closer to the nucleus, as they have more probing capacity as well. So we can say, like, we can conclude it like that. Now for the D and F one, this is easier than this one. Okay, so for the nth shell, it will be 0.35 each, and for n minus 1, n minus 2 till the last one, till the first one I mean, it will be 1 each. I hope you got these values right. Lithium first, okay. So lithium has electronic configuration of 1s2, 2s1, right? So in the nth shell, that is the second shell, which is the last shell over here, there is only one electron to be protected, and there is no other electron which can offer the protection to it. So here it will be 0.35 into 0, and for 2 it will be 0.85 into 1.7. So effective, which is denoted by the star, will be Z minus sigma. We got sigma is this, so it will be 3 minus 1.7, 1.3. okay, so it will attract the electrons by 1.3. Now we'll take beryllium, 1s2, 2s2. So it will be 0.35 into 1 over here, because 1 electron is there in the outermost shell, plus 0.85 into 2. So this will be 2.05, and Z effective will be 4 minus 2.05, that will be equal to 1.95. So we'll take another example. Let's see. So we'll straight away jump to F now. Okay. So F will have electronic configuration as 1s2, 2s2 and 2p5. So this is the same shell, okay? Same shell. We did the pattern before, just remember that. So from here there will be 6 electrons protecting it. So 6 into 0.35 plus 2 into 0.85. Now this will be equal to 2.1 plus 1.7, that will be equal to 3.8. So Z effective we have written it over here. The Z effective will be 9 minus 3.8, that will be equal to 5.2. So as you can see from left to right, the Z effective is increasing. So can we say that the nucleus is holding the electrons more tightly as we go from left to right, and thus we can conclude that atomic radius will effectively decrease because it's attracting the outermost electrons with much more force as we go to the right hand side? Yes. So hence we can say that from left to right the atomic radius decreases. Now coming to down the group. Firstly we'll take it as lithium. The lithium we had got it as 1.3. Now for Na, what's the electronic configuration? The electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1. So the sigma value will be, there is no electron protecting over here, so 0.35 into 0 plus 8 into 0.85, okay, plus 2 into 1. We know that the shells after n minus 1 protected by 1 value each, so it will be equal to 2. No, not 2.1, sorry, 1.7 into 4 plus 2, that will be equal to 6.8 plus 2, 8.8. So Z effective will be 11 minus 8.8 and it will be 2.2. Okay, now we'll have a look at K. P6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s1. So here it will be 0 over here, so 0.35 into 0 plus 0.85 into 8 in the third one, 0.85 plus 10 into 1. So it will be 6.8 plus 10, 16.8. Okay, so 16.8 it will be, and if we get the Z effective over here, it will be 90 minus 16.8, and it is same. It is exactly the same. And to our surprise, the value, the Z effective of rubidium, cesium, and francium will also be the same. So it will be the same for. It is experimentally found the same. So Z effect for Rb, cesium, francium, all are 2.2. So we can say that the Z effective remains constant down a group. It was only for the first one that we found out that it was 1.3, right? Otherwise it was the same 2.2. So hence we can say that the atomic radius isn't much affected by the nuclear charge as we go down the group, and it normally increases because the number of shells increase, so automatically it will increase. Now we'll have a look at the general thing that I was telling you. From left to right, ideally, okay? It should decrease, and from down the group it should increase. However, there are exceptions in this as well. So can you say in a period the element having the highest atomic radius is the first one in the period? Yes, we can say that only if we neglect that the noble gas elements radius, because of force of repulsion. There's a force of repulsion in noble gases is it counterbalances. Hence they have hence biggest atomic radius in a group. Okay, they have the biggest atomic radius in a group. And on the second position there is the first element of the period. For example, in the second period it will be neon. R of neon is more than and this way, okay? So this is how it happens. Now we'll study the radius of different elements and in different bonds, you can say, rather. So the atomic radius can be calculated by 4 ways, and these are covalent radius, ionic radius, metallic radius, and van der Waals radius. So we'll draw a flowchart over here. Just note the things I am speaking to you. So the covalent radius is defined as the 1/2 of the distance between the nuclei. That means the nuclear distance between two covalently bonded atoms. So if we take the molecule of Cl, it will have two Cl atoms which will be close to each other, and we can say that the distance between the nuclei, that is the plural form of nucleus. So the distance between the nuclei or the internuclear distance will be equal to twice the radius. So hence we can say that covalent radius of element A is equal to distance between the nucleus of A to the nucleus of A, the same atom it is, divided by 2. Okay, so we can say that. However, if both atoms are of different kind, their electronegativity will differ, and it will be seemingly higher than two similar ones. So the atomic radius that we are calculating by this formula, for them it will be comparatively lower. So the internuclear distance for internuclear distance DAB, this is the second one. For example, CCl4 and all the covalent bonds between two different kinds of atoms. So DAB will be less than of D, or ideally how it should be, okay, because of the difference in electronegativities. Ideally, okay, it will be less, and hence radius will be also less. Covalent radius I'm talking about. So it will be comparatively less. So here we are done with the covalent radius part, and there is another formula that may not be that important, but it's better to study that as well. So according to the scientists, you can calculate this D A minus B by the formula R RA plus RB. That is the radius of element A and of atom of element A, and then B is the radius of atom of element B, minus 0.09 into the difference in electronegativities. So it's different in electronegativities. This may not be asked in your exam, but it's better to be knowledgeable about these stuff, okay? So just remember, in case it's asked, the board is crooked as well as wicked, so you may just do this as well. So it will be RA plus RB, which is the ideal one, but as we discussed over here, it should be less, sorry. As we discussed over here, it should be less. So it will be 0.09 into the difference in electronegativities. Now we come to the second one, metallic radius. Okay, this is the radius which is formed between metallic atoms, and these are assumed to be closely packed spheres in the metallic crystal. So you have to just remember one thing, that the radius will be half of internuclear distance between the atoms, okay? And now tell me one thing, that metallic radius will be more or less than the covalent radius. It will the metallic radius will be more than the covalent radius, because the metallic radius is comparatively present in hard spheres in metallic crystals, and there happens to be some gap in between. So you can say that this will be more than the covalent radius. Okay, now we come to the third one, and this is van der Waals radius or collision radius. So the molecules of first I'll write it down. Okay, so the molecules of non-metallic atoms are generally gases. So on cooling, these gases change to solid state. But in the solid state also, they are not that close to each other. There is a massive difference in the gaps between the respective nucleus. So you can say that it is 1/2 of the distance between the nuclei of two adjacent atoms belonging to the neighboring molecules of a compound. Now you can't compare the gases present in the atomic state, right? So you'll have to take them as molecules. So for example, if we want to find the van der Waals radius of, let's say, Cl2, so it will be Cl over here. So here there will be the covalent radius. So now here the van der Waals radius will be the internuclear distance between the atoms corresponding to their respective molecules. So here it is Cl2. This is Cl, 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 Cl. So this will be the van der Waals radius over here. And these are more than these two. Van der Waals. And these are also obtained as a result by cooling. So how much ever close they can be brought to each other, it's done, and then we find the van der Waals radius. So the things you have to mainly remember in the van der Waals radius is that it is formed by comparing the internuclear distance between two atoms being in molecule with another atom, and it is also greater than the corresponding metallic and covalent radius. So here this will be the covalent radius. Okay? This divided by 2 divided by 2. Okay. So this will be the van der Waals radius, and this will be the covalent radius over here. Okay. That is pretty basic to understand, I hope. Then we come to the fourth one. There is no space left, so I'll wipe it down. So you can pause the video if you want to note something down. So we come to the fourth type. The ionic radius is pretty fun to understand. So if you want to compare the radius of cation or an anion, so there you have to just remember one thing, that you're comparing the ionic radius. So a neutral atom changes to a cation by loss of one or more electrons, that we know, and opposite happens for anion. So the magnitude of charge on cation and anion is equal to the number of electrons lost or gained respectively. So the radius of a cation is smaller than that of the corresponding atom. The proof of that is that to form a cation you have to remove an electron. So if this is an atom. So if an electron is removed from this, and this becomes a cation plus, so the shielding capacity will automatically decrease, and the nucleus will have more effective nuclear charge, due to which it will attract more electrons, it will attract electrons with comparatively greater force, resulting in the decrement of the size of the atom. So you can say that a cation will have lesser atomic radius than the corresponding atom, whereas an anion, if it will gain an electron, if there is an anion, okay, so if it will gain an electron over here, so of course the effective nuclear charge will decrease because the number of electrons is increasing, so the shielding capacity will increase as well. So we can say that the radius of A plus is less than of A, and the radius of A minus is comparatively more. Now there is something known as the isoelectronic species. If someone tells you to compare the atomic radius of, let's say, Na plus, Mg2 plus, Fe minus, then O2 minus, okay, and then neon. So first the thing we'll do is then note down the number of electrons in each one and their corresponding atomic number. So element Z and electrons present. So element Na, Mg, F, O, neon, Z. This is Z, okay, atomic number. So can we say over here, so we all know the atomic number of Na, 1, 11, 12, 9, 8, 10. Now the number of electrons it will have, Na plus, so 1 electron is removed, so the number of electrons will be 10. Similarly in this 2 electrons are removed, so again 10. Now in F 1 electron is gained, so 10, 10, 10. So this you can say is an example of isoelectronic species, a species which is having the same, having the elements having same electrons is known as isoelectronic species. But now you have to compare their ionic radius. Now for ionic radius, if you apply logic, so you can say that here Z value is more than anyone over here, so the nucleus will attract the corresponding electrons with much force than any other atom. So here the radius of Mg will be the least, then there will be Na because it has the nuclear charge is just less than Mg, so Na, then there will be Ne, then F, and then O. So this is pretty basic to understand, and these type of questions are asked in the exam as well. Now we'll have a look at the factors affecting the atomic radius in the periodic table. So Z effective. So we all know that as Z effective increases, the atomic radius decreases. Factors. We can say it is inversely proportional to Z effective. Now to the number of shells, you might have noticed that the radius of course increases with the number of shells increasing, so it is proportional to the number of shells. Now we have a look at the screening effect. So if the screening effect increases, the effective nuclear charge also decreases, right? And the electrons are held more loosely, due to which, and because of that, the radius increases. So this is again sigma, it is proportional to sigma. Now as I told you before, A plus will have less than A, then A minus, okay? This was the thing I just proved to you now. Now we have discussed that across a period it generally increases, and down a group across a period generally decreases, except for the noble gas element. It has the highest atomic radius in the given period, and down a group it increases because of the number of shells increasing and the effective nuclear charge is almost constant. So now there are a few exceptions over here as well. So we know Al, right? Al in the 13th group, and the element just below it is gallium, and these have atomic radius nearly equal, and if you precisely compare, the radius of gallium is more than aluminium. So this is our exception number 1. Now remember the exceptions very well, because I'm 100% sure that they will ask at least one exception in the exam. So the second exception which we are going to talk about is that in the halogen series we all know that it is like this, FCl, Br, I. So here the radius of ionic iodine should be more than bromine, chlorine and fluorine. That's true, but in between hydrogen is there. So you have to just remember this, the position of hydrogen, and it goes the same way. If you see, you have to just remember the position of hydrogen in this series. So it will be RBr minus, RCl minus, and RF minus. Okay, these are the two exceptions mainly in atomic radius. Now, don't you have a question that we have the lanthanide and actinide series, and how do they affect the atomic radius? Because there is a jump of 14 elements in the group 6 and 7, because it's from 57, then the next element is 72 in group 4. So there might be some decrease or increase in atomic radius, right? So can we say that if here the atomic radius is decreasing across a group, so it will also be there in the lanthanide series? So here we can say that in the lanthanide contraction there is something known as lanthanide contraction. Now in the lanthanide elements, the filling of the n-2 f orbitals take place, while simultaneously the nuclear charge also increases by 1. So we knew that in the n-1, n-2 shells, the sigma increases by 1. This was only in F and D ones, okay? But in lanthanide series, the atomic number is also increasing by 1 for each element, and sigma is also increasing by 1. So can we say that they will have nearly the same atomic size? We can say that, and that is why we have put them together in a different period. You can't say period, but in a different series. So because of this poor shielding of F electrons over here, the size somewhat decreases, very less you can say, between two elements. But if we compare it with the first and the 14th element in the corresponding series, so we'll of course see a big result, right? You have to be consistent to achieve great heights. So it is nothing like you will do something one day and the second day you will shine. So there is decrement, very less decrement, but it's consistent through all the 14 elements. So in the period, if it's from La, and then there is hafnium, so the radius of this will be comparatively a lot more than HF, because of the contraction in the lanthanide series, and same will be for actinides as well. And this is the reason for which the elements in the period 6 and period 5, they have nearly the same radius after La, because their increase in number of orbits is counterbalanced by the decrease in the atomic radius due to lanthanide contraction, due to which they have nearly the same radius. Now there is something known as expectations versus reality. Okay, so in the 3D one, as we were studying about the 3D elements, those come after this calcium, that vanadium and all, till zinc. So scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, and all. So these in this also, if we are going from left to right, and their atomic radius should definitely decrease, but something else happens over here. So I'll just write the table. So it should be 162. This is in micrometers, okay? In PM. No, this is in pictometers, sorry. Pictometers. 10 raised to minus 50. That is. Okay. 162. Now there is continuous decrement over here. But if you go above manganese, it will be the same for 2. Then there will be very little decrement over here. And for the last two ones, it will surprisingly increase it. And this will be 136. Now the reason behind this is that till Mn the effective nuclear charge is, you can say, more pronounced on the shielding effect. Hence here you can say nuclear charge wins. Now in this one, the nuclear charge is nearly equal to the shielding effect. So you can say here there is a tie and there is no that much increment or decrement in the atomic radius. Now if you see over here, due to the fulfillment of 3d10 orbital, the shielding constant is even higher. So here sigma wins. Now there is no need to learn the values and all. It is just that in the D subshell, it generally happens like this. Now if we come down to the fifth period, this was the fourth period, okay? So I'll just erase this one. It will be Y, ZR, NB, MO, TC, RD, RU, RH, PB, AG. So of course here you will say that the atomic radius of this will be more than the corresponding element above it. Yeah, that's true. But if you go down to the period 6 in which lanthanide contraction occurs, HF, here the atomic radius of these will be nearly equal. I mean corresponding to these, okay? So these will be correspondingly equal. And write like this. Now the reason behind this is due to the length. These will also be included, sorry, my bad. These will also be included. Now due to the lanthanide contraction, the atomic radius is decreasing, which counterbalances the increment in radius due to the fact that we are coming down the group. So radius is increasing down a group is counteracted by lanthanide contraction. Hence it turns out to be in middle, which proves that these are equal to the corresponding element in the above group. Okay, so you can say that these will have a comparatively same atomic radius. So by this we have finished atomic radius, and just remember the aluminium and gallium exception well, because it comes a lot in the exam. And also remember these, okay, they might ask you that ionization potential is nothing but the minimum energy required to remove the outermost electron in a gaseous atom, isolated gaseous atom. Also note that the energy is always positive. Okay, the energy is always positive, we can say. Now when we come to the factors, what do you think it will be with the atomic radius? As the atomic radius will be less, the electrons will require more energy to to escape the vicinity of the effective nuclear charge. Okay, so the ionization energy will be comparatively more in a smaller electron, because more energy will be required to remove the electron from its shell, and attraction will also be more. So IP is inversely proportional to the atomic radius. IP now, in the same example, we can say that when the nuclear charge is more energy is required to remove it from the atom. So it is directly proportional to the effective nuclear charge. Now when we come to the screening effect, now for the screening effect, if the screening effect is more, then the Z effective will be less, and here we have got it as proportional, so it will be inversely proportional as well, similarly as the atomic radius. Now there is a very important factor over here. Now we all know that that there are noble gas elements which are present in group 18. So there is a constant force of repulsion, due to which it is very hard to remove electron from them, because they already have a stable electronic configuration. So can we say that the I in a given period will be the most for the noble gas element present in it? Can we say that? Okay, so in a period it will be the pattern will be like that. However, there is something known as stability of half-filled and fully filled orbitals. So let's take example of period 2. In period 2, we have lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. Now neon has stable electronic configuration, but now we are referring to half-filled and fully filled orbitals. So here we can say that the elements having S2 in the outermost shell, that is the outermost configuration, P3, P6, this is half-filled stability factor. Okay, so in this you can say there will be this will be stable, as electronic configuration will be 1s2 2s2. So this will be stable, not fully stable like neon, but it will be stable, somewhat stable. Now here it will be P1 P2, P3. So this will also be stable because of half filled orbital P3, and here of course it will be stable because of P6, and this is the same for D5, D10, and on it goes like this. So the last subshell should be stable, which can be half filled or completely filled. So here the ionization potential should normally increase across a period because the atomic radius decreases. Okay, the Z effective increases, the sigma or the shielding constant also decreases. So it's all in the favor of IP. But here this will be more. So whenever it is stable, it will be more than this, and in the remaining places it will be the general formula. C will be more and F will be more. Okay, it will be like this. So if we have to write it down in the ascending order, it will be like this somewhat. This one will be Li, then there will be B, and then there will be beryllium because it's comparatively more. Beryllium, then there will be C, and then again you will take O first, then N, then F, then N. So this will be the case for period 2 because of stability of half filled and fully filled orbitals. So whenever they will ask you to find if this statement is true, or you have to compare the IPs of given elements of the same period, you'll have to draw this for sure, and you can just note it down after that. After drawing this, you can just write this down because I didn't learn this. I just showed it to you how it works. Okay, so it will be like this, and it will be same for period 3 as well, period 4 as well. Now the consecutive electron gain enthalpy of ionization enthalpies will be more, successive ionization enthalpies. Now I told you over here that energy is always positive, so IP1 will be less than IP2, IP3. Okay, so the energy for removing electron in Mg will be less than energy for removing electron in Mg plus, which will be less than energy needed to remove an electron in Mg2 plus. So this is how it will work. Now down the group, how will be the pattern? Down the group there will be no effect of the stability thing. Okay, so you can just conclude that down a group ideally it should decrease as the atomic radius is increasing, nuclear charge is almost constant, and the sigma value is also constant. The nuclear charge is it is also increasing, but the atomic size is preferred. It happens to have more strength in determining the factor. So down a group it decreases. Across a period it increases, but remember, half filled and fully filled factors. Now in the previous property we saw that the radius of gallium is more than that, or is less, it is less than that of aluminium. Okay, we saw that. So can we say that the IP of gallium will be more than aluminium, which is contrary to this, because it's like this. Okay, so IP of gallium is more than IP of aluminium. It has less atomic radius as well. So in all the periods it will be like this only. Now one more thing there is that the reducing character is the metallic property is inversely proportional. The ionization is inversely proportional to the metallic property. So the metals have less IP. That's understood over here because it's increasing to the right where the non-metals come into play. And the reducing character of K is almost equal to Rb. Just remember this exception as well. Rb is rubidium and K is potassium. Okay. So here we are done with two properties, which is atomic radius and ionization potential. Now we'll do the remaining two in the next lecture, which will be at electronegativity and electron gain enthalpy. Okay, we'll do that in the next lecture. For that, please, if you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting lectures like once in a week, of course. I'll do it. In the start, I've got that motivation, so I'm posting a video every day. So I hope this continues. By the way, if you show me the support, I will. Okay, so until then, bye.